So super excited to see some familiar faces here and also some that are not familiar, but great to have you join us. Thank you. My name is Gal. I'm CEO and co-founder here at Base, and I have with me also Shachar, who's our VP product. And we're going to take you through the explanation and framework of what an AI-first customer org is or can be. Hopefully you'll find it valuable. It's recorded. We're going to also launch a quiz, and we're also going to give you some materials that you could utilize, and happy to set sessions with you for consultation later on. So let's dive in. And if you have any questions, by the way, feel free to put them either in the chat or even better, put them in the Q&A, but chat is also okay. So first and foremost, when we think about what's happening in the world of AI, and we'll focus specifically about customer organizations and CS organizations, we believe that in the next 3 years, the CS teams that are going to win are not going to have the biggest teams. They'll have the best systems. And think about it, and kind of we'll talk through what that means, but what does that mean for your organization? And how can you get there? So again, by way of introduction, my name is Gal. I'm the CEO and co-founder here at Base. Happy to connect on LinkedIn and happy to answer more questions. Shachar, if you want, just take a minute and introduce yourself.
Nice meeting everyone. I'm Shachar, VP Product at Base, and in a moment I will show you some cool stuff that we've been working on.
Cool. And what we're going to share with you is also based on our overall experience, both in Base and we recently acquired Ever After, which is a customer success onboarding and success platform we'll talk about. And it's also based on the knowledge we accumulated from working with large organizations such as SAP and Okta and Broadcom and ZoomInfo and many others, touching more than 2 million customers monthly, B2B customers specifically, and running over 500 customer programs as we do it. I'll start with some background why we're saying that systems will matter most and what does all this mean for customers. So basically, your customers have already made a shift. They've already moved. I'll take the two right metrics here to focus on. So first of all, on your customer side, more than half of the customers say that they don't care, how they interact with you as long as they get their problem fixed. So they don't care if it's a real person or an AI. I don't know if you in your life have some experience with AI agents or AI interactions. If they're good enough, we don't care that it's an AI and not a person. Leaders also think that way. So more than 80% of the leaders are kind of agreeing that Gen AI can provide better service for customers, right, than previous approaches. So when you combine the two, both customer preference and leadership preference, you can come to the understanding that the organization is changing whether we like it or not, whether we're on board or not, the world and the organization are changing. So what does that mean? First of all, and we've seen that, smaller teams and more ownership, right? Whether it's 25% average RIF or any other change that happen, there's generally this idea of, hey, because of AI, we can have smaller teams that do the same, but it really means that each one of us does more. Maybe we consolidate tools, maybe we consolidate roles, maybe we kind of try and create more holistic approaches, maybe we MCP or cloud everything, but there's a different way of doing things, right? The second thing that we're seeing is, of course, that customer data, customer 360 is non-negotiable. Everybody in the customer realm knows about customer 360 and how important data is, but up until 2 years ago, I want to say, people talked about it, but nobody solved for it. The change that AI brought is that all the departments, IT including first and foremost, understand the value of data, understand that you have to have more data coming in from the entire customer journey, simplifying the process of integrations and getting the data from your product, from, let's say, your Snowflake, from your CRM, from your customer platforms, and so on, all in one place. Because if there's a disconnect in handoffs, in product versus out of product journeys and so on, it becomes a liability and it becomes a risk. Customers have less tolerance for not great experiences, for companies not knowing data about them in the age of AI and so on. Then of course, we all feel it. The pace has changed, right? The things that we would have done previously, you know, in a quarter, were now needed to do in a month, give or take, right? The things that companies would have planned 3 years in advance, they maybe plan a year in advance. What you should do, what you have maybe thought that you're going to accomplish in a month, now you're asked to accomplish in, a third of that. So it depends on the company, but there's definitely kind of this feeling of we're 3xing everything, let alone 5x or 6x. And this whole crawl, walk, run approach is, well, kind of out the window. Nobody's going to wait. Yes, you can adopt or build things in steps and stages, and we'll definitely talk about that. But it's not so much a crawl, walk, run. It's more of the notion of let's launch and iterate. Let's experiment and iterate. Let's do things. Let's go out and do things and test them and iterate on them. People will, our customers, our internal employees, will work with an AI chatbot that improves continuously, but they're going to start working with an AI chatbot. We're not going to do a crawl, walk, run approach. And then, of course, the AI already meets your customers first. In most organizations, whether it's a support agent or anything else, whether it's an agent on your website, when they become prospects and so on and so forth, at this point, AI meets your customers many times before you do, and that kind of builds an experience there. So when we think about the CS org and the CS role specifically, we're kind of saying that it's actually upgrading, definitely not disappearing, but it's changing, and we think that it's also becoming more important from a perspective of customer experience becoming a moat, and we'll talk about it. And this is tapping into something that we also learned from the CS Cafe. But when you think about the traditional CSM, right, manual outreach, you manage a book of business, you have some basic reports with the account team. You have to be reactive on any support call. You have one-on-one meetings every week, every month, or whatever it is. It's still common, but less and less so. AI-enhanced CSM, which is probably where we see more people today, or the most of the CS orgs today, is more like, okay, I use AI for insights. I can ask Claude, or I can ask AI, like, give me some insights about my account. Tell me what's happening there. And maybe some predictive data, like, oh, there's some idea there around the score and the health score and predictive good or bad, whatever that is, sentiment, and so on. And then some automated workflows. Okay, if the sentiment is bad, let's trigger this, or if the sentiment is good, let's do that. And some ideas for proactive engagement. Why don't you take this email that we just wrote for you with AI and send it to the account? So that's kind of where many companies are today. Let's talk a little bit about the more kind of advanced AI org. So think about an agent management where the team has some agents that do some of the work for them, right? And you look at your team as, oh, these are the things that we have humans for. These are the things that the agents do, and we manage both of them. And we work together. For example, an agent that helps us do that handoff between a closed won deal to a new customer. How does that look like from now on, that we don't have to depend on the communication and collaboration between sales and customer success and fear that it might drop in one way or another. So maybe that agent, for example, runs on your Gong calls or any recording calls that you have. And then it takes and summarizes that, plus maybe whatever the salesperson wrote in their closed won analysis or kind of the closed deal data, plus CRM data and so on. If there was a trial, some data from the trial, and then gives the CS all of that information as an automated agentic workflow for handoff, right? And then you start to have some kind of AI strategy. How do we envision that AI can help us in other ways? And, cross-function. So we just gave the example of handoff between sales and customer success, cross-function AI, and AI decisioning. So AI doesn't only recommend an email, it actually decides to send this email at this time and does that action, right? And that's where many organizations are going to go in the next year or so. And maybe the more even progressed version of that is a full hybrid kind of VPCS or human and agent team where CS leaders actually lead AI teams, right? So you manage a team of 20 agents plus maybe 20 humans, and you have AIs becoming strategic. It's literally how you do every part of your business is, where does AI loop into this? and your operations scale dramatically because of AI. So you're managing much more the process versus the people. And at this point, you can also have much bigger board impact, and we'll talk about that. But when you run a lot of the post-sale journeys, you could also track with AI better outcomes and revenue influence. And we can talk the revenue influence discussion. You have much more power to share with the board of how all these new AI experiences journeys are helping you increase revenue. So how do you get there? And we'll talk about that. Shachar will show specific examples, but when you think about it, for most organizations, there's 50 and something different jobs to be done, different post-sale activations that you want to do. And on the left here, we gave some random examples. And on the right, we have an example, a journey understanding. So the first thing you kind of want to do is be able to say, okay, so when I think about the post-sale actions, I want to map the outcomes. For example, an outcome is get a review on G2. That's a small outcome. Or an outcome is getting the setup and integrations done. We have a new customer. The first thing is we want to connect to their, I don't know, their systems of record, their CRM. So how do we get that done? That's an outcome. Or getting any one of those, and then we'll break it down to job to be done. So maybe the first thing is making sure which system we need to integrate to, and then getting the right people who know the integration, and then actually doing the work and maybe doing the whole work with a MCP and an automatic integration process, and we don't need the people in the loop. So for every one of these processes, we can kind of understand, okay, where's this post-sale outcome coming in within the customer lifecycle stage? What is the difference between the different personas? Is there a difference between different product lines? And the most important part is this a job to be done or an outcome that we think that a human has to be managing? Do we think that AI can manage with human in the loop, or could it be full AI autonomous, right? So kind of think about 100% human, AI with human in the loop monitoring, 100% AI. Where does this outcome fall? Based on that, and that assignment takes a couple of days because you want to map that and understand that, but it's very important planning to know what you want to do next, because then you prioritize the outcomes that are most critical, the easiest for you to run, or either the easiest for you to move to AI or the most critical for you, and you want to test those out, basically create a job to be done with AI, test it out, and we'll show you how to do that, and kind of create a flow where, okay, I'm starting to add more AI workflows, more AI jobs to be done, more AI outcomes into my CS org, and becoming an AI first CS org, because every action, every job to be done, every outcome, I reverse engineer and think about, is that something that AI can own, can be part of, is not involved at all, and so on. And we gave some examples here. Feedback. So do I run a feedback survey autonomously when I finish onboarding? Do I ask them about the service? Do I ask them about product features and so on? Is that feedback run to which persona, on which product line, at which stage, as a survey, as a meeting that I book with them, and so on? Once you map that, you know how I can come and play. So that's an example of how to build all that. We've given you here some examples of agents that do some of those outcomes, and we've tried to break them down high level. There's more breakdown, but when you think about an onboarding agent or an onboarding job to be done, so the first part, the first job to be done, which is maybe one or two agents, is, okay, there's a new customer. We got this handoff going on. We now need to reach out to the customer team, and we need to set up a kickoff meeting, for example. And then we need to personalize their onboarding journey for that account, that company, that product, that persona. And then we want to track and alert the fact that they're on track with their onboarding journey, or maybe they're off track and we need to get them back on it, right? So that's a simplified example of an onboarding agent, split two jobs to be done, and how we build that. An advocacy agent would maybe do something like, hey, let's run on all our CRM or all our users in the product and identify, based on different signals, which ones are ready to be an advocate. And then the next job to be done will be reaching out to them in a very personalized manner and asking them if they're willing to be an advocate and what they're willing to do. And then if they say yes, we'll kind of add them to our database of advocates with the understanding of what they're willing to do and how to activate them. So, and so on and so forth. But that's kind of the exercise you want to do. You want to think about all the different things you're trying to do, and how do I do QBRs and what are some of the next best actions that I want to run for adoption, and how do I run a renewal process, and how do I run an upsell cross-sell process, and so on, from simple things like getting a G2 review through getting user-generated content and so on. That's basically the framework that we use when we build the agents, and we're kind of hoping that it helps you think about how you can build them, and there's also an AI-first org blueprint. Beyond that, when you think about, okay, what can I do with AI in my customer-first org, we'll talk also about vibe coding. So as you all know and familiar with, whatever Lovable or whatnot, vibe coding experiences. So the main idea here is to say, there's things that agents do, but there's the experience that I want to build as an AI first org. And I could use, again, an out of the box vibe coding tool, Lovable, Replit, and so on and so forth. Or I could use I could use internally inside my company, maybe a Cloud Code or something, or I could use more designated tools for the post-sale journey, such as, the Ever After Studio that Base has. But when you think about the vibe coding experiences, it's more around, okay, I want to vibe code specific journeys and widgets and processes for onboarding journeys or for adoption journey or for renewal. I want to vibe code specific customer experiences for them to see their QBRs and valorization and how they use my product. I want to vibe code a community or a loyalty program and so on. So that's the difference, is that the agent is more of the actions, the workflows, the process. Vibe coding, which would be more connected to the experience. And a great AI first org would kind of use both capabilities, both AI tools, if you will, in your tool belt, right? Vibe coding is one, agents is another. Those are different things that you could use in different manners. So that's kind of a little bit about that. And then I'll just end with saying that when we think about vibe coding, we need to remember, same way that we want to break down the process of agentic flows, we want to break down the process of vibe coding. We want to think about, hey, vibe coding has to be relevant. The experience needs to be something that when the user meets your vibe coded experience, right, it needs to be relevant to their stage, goals. It's not a one size fits all. Their segment, their persona, their country, their language, and so on. It has to be easy to access. Right? Whatever you vibe code, if it's at the end, it sits somewhere in the side, it's not helpful. It has to be vibe coded and then embedded inside your product, inside your customer portal, inside your community, inside an existing experience. It needs to be very seamless to the customer, right? It has to be human. Everything we do with AI, whether it's agents or vibe coding or something else, yes, people raised their hand and said they're happy to get outcomes from AI. They don't care that it's not humans. But the caveat there that they expect AI to be human-like and friendly and efficient and whatnot, right? And then it has to be actionable. When you think about the experiences you build, whether it's agents or vibe coding, you want to make sure that, it's very clear to the users as they go through these, because our attention span is continuously reducing. We expect AI to give us the answers fast. We expect vibe-coded experiences to take us to do exactly what we need to do when we need to do it and move on. So it has to be very actionable and very specific. And when you have all that, and this is why we're thinking that the CS org and the CS role is actually elevated, because now CS has more control over outcomes. So beyond talking about NPS and CSAT and renewal rate and health score, which are all great metrics, CS can now start talking about pipeline influence and our GRR and the number of advocates we have and how they influence and secured new ARR or ACV grew. So now because CS is owning more possible outcomes within the customer journey and has more data because of that 360 and connecting all the dots, again, whether you do it with MCPs or do it with integrations or whatnot, you could actually show customers that finished onboarding in 2 days get higher adoption and get higher retention. Let's envision that report and show why self-serve onboarding or fast onboarding actually helps us get better retention, get better adoption, get more upsell because they're feeling that they use what they bought and they're ready to buy more from us, and so on and so forth. So that's how all this ties together, ideally. With that, we'll do a quick case study example and then maybe move to real life views and examples. So ZoomInfo is an example customer, and wait till the end, so you'll know about a webinar we're running with them to even dive deeper into this use case. But we had two different departments used based within ZoomInfo. We had a customer success department using the Ever After product for onboarding and moving from self-serve to 100% self-serve. And the outcome was amazing. They got 2x faster kickoff. They were able to reduce time from weeks to days. They get great feedback from their customers about this new process. And then we had another department in the customer marketing and sales side used the same process for references and advocacy. And then we had 100% self-serve, and we've influenced $50 million of pipeline for references and so on. So that's showing how in one company you can have different flows, different agentic flows, and different outcomes by using kind of these frameworks and connecting the customer journey and connecting the dots. And today, all these actions actually live under, so in ZoomInfo specifically, all these actions now live under the customer success org. So also references, advocacy, customer marketing have all become one department, one flow within the customer success, or more specifically, digital success and scale CS org. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Shachar. I want you to think about, becoming an AI first customer org as a compounding journey. You could do it by steps. You can make your customers autonomous in certain parts of the journey, and you could basically run them across different programs and lifecycle stages. And we're going to show 5 of those, but generally speaking, don't think about boiling the ocean or being AI first means AI everything. It means having this mindset of AI first for every new process and every old process, reverse engineering, thinking about the job to be done, and thinking, is this human only, AI and human in the loop control, or AI only, and how do we get there, and which ones do we start with? Shachar, the floor is yours. I'll stop sharing.
Yes. All right. So I have actually maybe more than 5. It depends if time, how much time I will have. But by the way, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to send them like in the chat. So I will just like review them as I speak. So as Gal mentioned, I think that building an AI first customer org, you could focus both on how making your customers more autonomous and less reliant on you, and making you more autonomous and less reliant on other departments in your organization. So I'm going to talk a bit about a few examples here. So ZoomInfo, and I think that someone, at least one person from ZoomInfo, from the ZoomInfo team is here. So thank you, and like, you're awesome. So they actually built a fully self-service and personalized onboarding experience. You could read the full story here. But what's really amazing with the way that they approach it is that they gave the customer the power to launch their own onboarding experience, to provide their own goals and timelines and the tools that they would like to integrate. And they even gamified the experience in a way that will make the customer really feel like they owned this program. So this is just like one example of what a ZoomInfo customer will see when they launch their onboarding system. In addition to that, and that's a great customer-facing element to engage with customers, they gave really clear visibility to the different phases of the onboarding journey that the ZoomInfo customer will take. So me as a customer, I don't speak with a rep from the ZoomInfo end, but I still have full visibility to where I stand and how far I progressed in my journey. And another, in order to delight the customer, we also celebrate specific milestones and specific stages, so the customer can feel that they're always achieved something, which increases the motivation of them to actually move forward with this onboarding plan. So the results are really, really, really great. And this is just like one example of how making your customers more autonomous. Onboarding is something that many customers, that any company struggle to an extent with onboarding. So giving the power to customers is something that could really help you scale and be more autonomous. Yeah, and Alison here wrote, Alison from the ZoomInfo team, she just added her LinkedIn here. So you should definitely connect with her. I just want to show like a real life example on how we can actually vibe code and outcome together. So let's say that I have a customer and I would like to onboard them to Ever After or to any other company. So what we could actually do, and we use AI to do a lot of the stuff in Ever After. So let's say that I'm connected to my actual help center that is hosted in Zendesk. And let's say that I would like to create an onboarding program for my customer, focusing on integrating Salesforce and creating customer-facing experiences. So what is going to happen now? So our studio, which is our vibe coding element, will now wake up and ask our help center, hey, please provide me anything that you can tell me about Salesforce and about how to onboard to Ever After. And once we do that, the studio will actually create a program that I could very easily deploy and publish to my customers. So we can see now that it's thinking, it gives me some information. And a process, okay, it actually even give me a question. So let's do it. So what's nice about that is that it's already connected to all of our data sources and our knowledge base. So we have the context and we have all of our context layer about our customers. So it's very easy to design a really good experience for them. Okay, let's give it a moment to think. In the meanwhile, let's take another example. And after that, we will go back to that. So post-onboarding, you have many customers that in many cases will not have someone that they can speak with on an ongoing basis. So what Okta did is they actually built a post-onboarding autonomous success plan system for all of their thousands of self-service customers that they have. And they've built a recipe that was proven to be a big success that has 4 steps in the process. The first step, they capture customer goals. So they capture customer goals, they track it back in the CRM. So suddenly all of the organization knows exactly what Okta customers care about. And they do it in a customer-facing interface powered by Ever After. You could read the full story here, yes. Once Okta captures the desired business outcomes from their customers, they reveal to the customer based on actual product data. They calculate the maturity of the customer and the missing configuration in order to achieve a higher level of maturity. The third step would be based on the customer desired outcomes and based on the customer missing configurations, they create on the fly using AI and using a lot of automation, a personalized plan to each customer with prioritized tasks that they need to achieve. So customers achieve that once, for example, we have a task here, enable FastPass. One, they will actually do it in the Okta platform. Okta will send an event to the interface, so the task will be automatically checked off. And in order to create more momentum and inspire customers to do more, once they reach a specific threshold, we unlock more advanced setup for the customer. And with that, something that self-service customers never have access to their data. No one ever asked them, hey, what are you looking to achieve? So suddenly they have like a very self-service approach to improve and increase their maturity and security measurements. Okay. In the meanwhile, I see that it already gave me some draft. Not sure if I like it, but let's do merge it to one component with tabs per section. And let's get another task in the meanwhile. QBR is another very big opportunity to make customers more self-service with. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with the QBR week that many CSMs do in on a quarterly basis. It's a week that like they take screenshot and they build presentation and they only do it for top customers. So it's something that is not really scalable and you cannot do it for all of your customer base. So Vidyard, which is a video platform, they created an in-app, always-on AI-powered QBR for their customers. So this is actually a live example, and I have their consent to show it to you. So this is the actual Vidyard platform. So once customer clicks here on the Success Hub, this page is actually embedded component that takes information from the product telemetry that Vidyard owns about their customer and surface a live QBR or value snapshot that customers could take and improve on their own. And with that, and Vidyard uses Ever for and base for both QBRs and onboarding. They were actually able to really improve their onboarding and to reach to a 100% of QBR coverage. So we have the in-app QBR that could live inside your platforms. But in many cases, you have customers that either you would like to share like a QBR or a value snapshot or recommendations to someone that maybe is a decision maker, but not necessarily will be the one that will actually perform some of the recommendations. So because of that, and you're the first one to see it actually, we are introducing, starting today, our AI documents, which is an AI document builder that can connect to your data sources. And with vibe coding, you can design a QBR, you can design a presentation, you can design a one-pager, you can design a renewal review for your customers, and send a personalized PDF for each account. So just like in a nutshell, so this is our documents model where you can design different documents. So let's say that I would like to create now a QBR of Q4 2026. And then you could actually start designing different components that you have. So let's say that I would like to create. So I previously created a QBR cover page. I'm not a designer, by the way, but it actually looks really nice. But if I would like to create a new component, I can go and I will use our studio model to create a component. So let's create a component for create component to show renewal information. So what Studio will do now, since we connected Salesforce and other data sources to our platform, so Studio will design like a page that we can later use in our documents. We can pull information from BigQuery and Databricks and Snowflake and basically any data source that you have. So you can create your top tier slides without compromising. So let's say that this looks good. You can see here that it used some placeholder for specific elements. Let's say that I'm happy with that. I can publish this component. I can go back to our documents, and now I could use the component that I just created as a part of my my slide. As I mentioned, we could put here a lot of other stuff. We can reflect business priorities, and then at scale, once I choose a specific customer, the document will be generated for them. The data will be pulled in real time for your systems, and then we could download it and automate send to the customer. Another really, really important part about that is that you could actually give your customers the power to generate a real-time snapshot of the report that you create for them. So let's say that you have like a template of value snapshot, so you can allow your customers to generate it on their own interface, and then they could download it, see it, they could provide it, they could send it into their manager. So, and all of this was not designed by a designer. I mean, it was by a designer, but by an AI designer. So same goes with renewal. So for example, we can connect to the renewal opportunity in Salesforce, and then 2 months before the renewal, you could send the renewal overview to the customer, and then you could say, would you like to auto-renew? Yes or not. You could decide also for each component which account should appear. So let's say that this component, I only want to show to customers that their next renewal date is in the next 90 days. So customers that are beyond that will not see this component. So I'm super excited about this module. I know that many of our customers really wanted also the PDF version. So you could scan here to learn more, and we are going to give like a nice we're going to give a nice early bird discount on that. So let's talk if this is something that you would like to see with your data. Another example, and something that maybe many of you struggle with, is how you could recruit advocates that will speak in your conferences and will provide you case studies and will conduct G2 reviews, and you have a lot of customers that you would like to benefit from to help you to scale and increase better results. So you could actually use AI, and you could build an agent that its all purpose is to listen to calls, read the transcript, listen to support cases, identify those relevant advocates. Once the system identifies a positive engagement, you could send them and even generate a G2 review for them. And all they need is to just click and submit it for you. And Jake, actually, so we are introducing the documents as a standalone module that you could, if you're an ever after or base customer, you could use it as a part of your subscription. It's a module, but you could also purchase this sole module. So if you want, we can you could enter the page and we can talk. Oh, and by the way, this is a really nice experiment that we did. So we sent to our customers like an AI generated image with a song that we wrote for them, and we actually saw that once we did that, we increased the conversion rate from an email to an actual G2 review. Next best action is something that if you're not doing, that's probably a really good place to start, because it helps you to focus customers or a single action that they need to do that would benefit more for them. So again, once you connect and once you leverage customer telemetry and data and product usage, you could, based on what a successful customer looks like, you could actually guide customers with a very specific, not overwhelming single next best action that you could generate for them and inspire them to take. Once you narrow down the requests from customers to a single next best action, the chances of your customers to actually act on it on their own increases. So that's something that we would really recommend you to do. You can take it even further and even ask an agent to also close the next best action for the customer. So in this example, the AI decided that it's time to block a time on the calendars, on the customer calendars, because the customer told us that on Friday at 2 p.m. this is the time that they're willing to invest in the implementation. So the system could also block something on the customer schedule. Hey, this is what you will need to do today. And that's something that I'm going to review as well. So in many cases, and I'm sure that customer success departments are being asked to provide references for sales to help them close deals. So that is a process that you could definitely outsource and let an AI to do the full flow, from recruitment to find the right matches, to help you schedule the meeting, and even enrich the deal with more relevant sources. So under the recruit, so you could build, for example, an advocacy agent that again will scan your call recordings, your support history, the product usage, and will try to identify which contacts that you have are good advocates. And then you could also automate the outreach and ask them, hey, Dana, would you like to participate in our advocacy and reference pool? Oops, I had a miss on the slides. This is the next step. And then you could also build a matching agent. The purpose of the matching agent is that once a request or reference come from a sales rep, based on the opportunity, based on the type of customer, based on what is important to highlight in this reference call, the matching agent will find out of the reference pool the most relevant advocate and will reach out, will ask their consent, and then we'll even do the intro between the prospect and the reference. Scheduling the time is also a hassle. So you could build a scheduling agent that will try to reach out to Dana, which is the reference, and Jordan, which is the prospect, and try to find overlapping and help them to make sure that the meeting actually happens. In addition to that, as a supporting asset that you can provide to your salespeople, you could also build a content agent that while we are working on the reference pool or the reference matching, here are a few case studies and video and quotes based on all the information that you have to help them share it with customers. And maybe just before I hand it over back to Gal, I also want to share something that might be also relevant. So an AI interviewer that will potentially help your product team or you to gather customer and feature requests on your behalf. So this is an AI interviewer, like a product AI interviewer. So I can tell them that we must have an integration with ZoomInfo. So the purpose or the goal of the AI interviewer is to make sure to take all of the relevant information from the customer before we hand it over to the product team. So we would like to search our customer data. So you can see here that the more information that I can provide to the interviewer, the request strength is increasing, and of course, it could lower the burden on the CS team, on the product team, to make sure that the information is being sent in the perfect method. So I did have a chance to have more than 5 examples, but I hand it over to you, Gal. If you have any questions, let me know.
Cool. Yeah. So I saw some questions come in, and I think, there's one from David we should answer, and then another one from Fred. So let's start with David's question, which I actually liked. He said, it's good framing of QBR. So he's saying, for me, QBR is not just providing data to customers, but it's also, a strategic discussion, or it should help me create a strategic discussion, and understand pain points and future growth areas or outcomes, and how does our automated AI QBR help with all that? And I think it's good framing. QBR, you're right, is not just the data you share with them. There's more to it.
Yeah, so definitely, and as a part of the automated QBR agent that you could do is few things. First, and a QBR doesn't really start with the presentation. It starts with the preparation for the presentation. So maybe like a week before, an agent could send an email or like a mini form to all of the customers. Hey, can you please confirm that those are still your customer goals for this queue? And that can do that. And once the customer provide back the answer, so first of all, it will be logged back to your CRM, but then you could actually tailor all of your presentation based on what the customer said. So let's say that now I have recommendations. So let's see. Yeah, so I have a next best action call out that as well I could implement with an AI agent to calculate and build it as a part of the presentation. But maybe I have a set of different resources that I only want to show when the business priorities is one of the following. So you should actually leverage the information that you know about the customer and match your recommendations based on that. So that's a really, really great point. But the presentation is the final, or not the final, is like is the asset you share after you build it with a customer.
I would also say that the same asset or a representation of that asset could be sent to the CSM or the account manager. So as preparation to the QBR, because you want to have that discussion, the people from the internal team who are going to meet the customer should get the materials first. They should review them. They could even say, hey, let's change something, or let's, now that we know this and we heard something else from them, for example, we can also bring things that we heard from a recorded call, like a gong call or a chorus call. So how do we bring that in? And then it helps you actually frame the QBR in a more strategic manner and not just share information. So we show a presentation where we actually share data, but we could also put in the AI structure and also answer these strategic questions, or ask, like Shachar showed, about these specific pain points and make sure that we cover those as part of the template. So all that could be part of the process to make sure that it's both tactical or providing the right information, but also strategic for customers and for teams. Then we had another question here from Fred, and before we kind of continue with our flow. So he was asking about how many systems should be integrated to create the functionality we were seeing, such as, Salesforce, Zendesk, and Vidyard. So Vidyard we actually showed as an example of a customer. It's not necessarily a system that you have to integrate, but you can only connect CRM. The answer is that the better information the system has, the better outcomes and results you'll have. And so if you connect your data lake like a Snowflake or something, and you connect your CRM, and you connect product telemetrics, and you connect support tickets, the system, the AI will be smarter, but you don't have to do that. I don't know, Shachar, if you want to add anything on that.
No, I agree. It could be the more information that you can provide about if customer use this and this, the better the recommendation would be. But what we saw that even just by asking customers like their goals, and then you can provide recommendations, even if you didn't verify if they implemented or not, will still make customers act. And even if and the research that show that if you say if you tell customers something, or people thinks that they don't feel that they're right for them, they will take the opportunity to fix you. So it could even open a conversation. So I think that there's like a lot of opportunities, even if you don't have like the full robust data set.
Cool. So I think with that, let's just quickly, finish up with some things. And if you have more questions, we're probably going to have a few more minutes to answer questions at the end as well. But so what all we covered means for you? Well, first, if you haven't yet, start thinking about hiring agents and not, headcounts alone. We're all for adding more headcounts where you can, but also think about, where do I add a headcount? Where do I prioritize that versus where do I add an agent, right? And prioritize that. How do I onboard a new agent? And how do I define the job to be done? And then just, it could be onboarding agents, renewal agents, advocacy agents, and so on. We've talked about all of those different use cases. The second thing is, and this is key, I think, for many CX leaders and CX practitioners, if all products are equal, if all of us could go to Vibe Coding or Cloud Code and basically say, build me this or do me that, if my kid could go and build the same thing that 10 engineers could build, then all products are equal. That becomes a commodity. What then becomes a differentiator is service, is experience. So I believe that this is a great time to be in customer success, to be in customer experience, because you're actually building now the moat. Hopefully your leadership understands that. If not, it's your job to help them understand that. But generally speaking, if everybody's going to build the same functionality and feature set in products, and if one competitor launches something and 2 weeks after the other competitor has that as well, then your service, your know-how, your experience, all of those become a moat. And I think that's where CS shines. And then the last thing here is, when you think about building this AI first CS organization, think about, how do I tie it to revenue? How do I put my, stake in the table of explaining where we influence NRR because of better experiences we create. Because of Shachar showed you this reference flow, because we help sales find references faster and get deals closed one faster, so how much revenue we influence there. Because we create things like retention motions where we see earlier on indications of potential risks or potential growth, and create a better retention motion around that as well. So those are the things that we should, think about as we think about our AI first organization. And we would kind of say you should think less. I don't know if I would say stop, but I wouldn't say stop managing customers, but think less about, managing customers and think more about building for them. How do you empower, how do you enable your customers to be more self-sufficient, to be more independent with achieving success with your product and with your journeys? So with that, we earlier on showed the ZoomInfo story or use case, but if that was a snippet, if you want to dive fully into that and understand how they've built it, Shachar is going to meet up with Nate in September, and they're going to share in details how they built that and what was their mind process, and where are they a year plus later, and so on. So this is a great one for you guys to join. You can scan the code and kind of join that webinar. And then the last ask here is that if you want to meet in person, because not everything is AI and agents, then we're doing an event, one of them in New York and one of them in San Francisco, both of them in October. You can see the dates here. It's called Obsession. We are customer obsessed, and we believe that you are as well if you're in this webinar. And we'd love to talk to you about the different customer growth use cases, from digital and scaled CS through customer marketing and lifecycle engagement, through advocacy and community. There's an early bird ticket here. Reach out to us if you're interested to learn more. If you want to speak and you have a great story, especially if it's a great story including AI, we'd love to have you there. Even if you're not a customer, the event has many speakers that are not customers. We want to share the best practices, the best stories, not just our own customers. So you're all welcome to both join and speak. Would love to see you there in person. And then I think with that, we're kind of ending here, and we're happy to take more questions. Happy to connect. You could scan here and actually book time if you want just consultation, not a demo, consultation. Feel free to do that, or connect on LinkedIn and what's not. And I think with that, we can see if we have any additional questions, and if not, we'll close the session. If there aren't any additional questions, then thank you so much for joining us. And reach out to Shachar, connect to him on LinkedIn, and ask whatever else you want to ask. Reach out to me and connect and ask whatever you want to ask. We hope this was valuable and beneficial. We're happy to give you 5 minutes back as well. And we thank you for your time. And we'll send the recording, of course. Cheers.
Bye-bye.